Monkey Radio is entertainment for adults, by adults, and the views and opinions expressed here do not reflect upon the sponsors or FXBG Public Radio. For additional information, please refer to the United States Bill of Rights. Stand warned. Hello and welcome to Shock Monkey Radio. I am your host, the Madman, and I am guilty of all charges, at least until it falls out of the news cycle and I get to the appeals court and it becomes a mistrial. So, hello and welcome to Shock Monkey Radio. You can email me, madman@fxbgpr.com, if I already pissed you off. That's fine. Absolutely. I want to remind you that we have this YouTube channel. If you're watching, you can share, and subscribe to my YouTube channel. I would appreciate it. I also tell people about this podcast if you like it, you know. I also have books on Amazon. Search for the author Scott L. Robbins with 2 T's and 2 B's. They're available for digital download. Okay, so let's go ahead and get right into it because I was sick this past weekend again. And so I don't know how long the show is going to be, how long my voice will hold out. So we'll see. I'll be sucking on cough drops the whole time. Hopefully I don't have any too much sounds like that or coughing fits to make this completely unlistenable. Okay, so happy 420. It's Hitler's birthday. That's what you're celebrating, right? Oh, no. It must be you're celebrating the anniversary of the Columbine shooting. Oh, no. I'm just kidding. It's pot day for all you potheads. I mean, I'm not stupid. I understand what the 420 thing means, and I've tried the electric lettuce a time or two, and I think it's great. I think it's safer than alcohol, but smoking anything is bad for you, even weed. People who say that weed is the safest drug ignore that simple fact. I've said in my book that I think igniting anything and inhaling the fumes is horrible for your health, and I smoke cigarettes, okay? I know it's bad for me, but I don't like the idea of 420 generally. It's April 20th, so you have to be high all day. It's 4:20 p.m., time to smoke. I find all that stuff ridiculous, just like drinking games. I don't need any rules involved with my intake of intoxicants, because weed is an intoxicant, make no mistake. I really dislike when people refer to weed as medicine, because it's not. I'm sure those of you who use CBD products might disagree with me, but most all of the medical value can be replaced by aspartame. What I mean is that cannabinoids are analgesic at best. The only other application for marijuana I can think of is people going through chemotherapy being prescribed cannabis to help stimulate their appetite. Also, I think anyone dealing with life-threatening illnesses like cancer, they should be given free weed by the hospitals and be allowed to smoke anywhere and everywhere for as long as they are sick. I would consider that the least we could do for such people. Additionally, I consider marijuana to be an intoxicant because you shouldn't be operating heavy machinery while on it. Don't drink and drive. Don't smoke and drive. It seems like common sense to me. Apparently, marijuana will be legal here in Virginia in July, with conditions, obviously. Legal to possess up to 1 ounce if you are over 21. And that makes sense to me. However, despite what you may have heard on social media, a cop can still pull you over if he smells weed because you should not be operating a motor vehicle. It's dangerous. Passing a blunt back and forth is distracting. A coughing fit can cause you to not watch the road or worse, pass out. Plus the effects on your brain and motor functions. It's dangerous. I mean, I trust people with cars on pot more than people on alcohol. I mean, pot makes time slow down. Perhaps gives you a better reaction time. I'm just speculating. Don't take my word for it. The first time I got high, it felt like forever. I felt like I was high for 6 weeks, and then I started feeling better, and I asked my friend how long since we smoked, and he said 2 hours. Hey, did you ever hear that recording of that cop calling 911 because he and his wife thought they were dead? He was a cop, and they baked some brownies or something, and he called 911 saying they were dead because time was going by really, really slowly, and it was freaking them out. And that's the fun of weed. If you're safe at home and you eat a bunch of magic brownies and freak yourself out, I would rather 911 take a call where some guy is freaking out at home instead of a 3-car collision because some dude felt he had to smoke in his car instead of, say, going to the park and smoking a J by the waterfall. Also, you know, cops arresting people for a gram or paraphernalia is just silly and a waste of law enforcement's time. Locking up these guys and bogging down the courts with such bullshit cases is a waste of time and taxpayer dollars. Plus, I am sure that the cops did not become cops just to harass potheads. Sure, there are some dick cops who do, but for the most part, I'm sure most cops want to deal with more direct threats to their community. And I will say this about weed. Humanity has been using it for a long time. They found cavemen frozen in ice with a sack of cannabis. Hemp was big business in the United States before the cotton gin. The flowers of the hemp plant were used for smoking, and the plant itself was used to make clothing, ropes, sails, all sorts of textiles before Eli Whitney made cotton easier to process. And it's not like these cavemen and American pioneers had video games and television like we do these days. Instead, they were more like Tolkien. They would get blazed out of their minds and read books, or write books, or in Tolkien's case, invent entire fictional languages for your fictional characters to speak in your fiction books. My point is, some of the great art out of all history has come from someone who was blazed out of their mind. And who knows what the caveman was doing when he was blazed? Maybe he watched an anthill very closely while giggling like a loon. Maybe he's off in a midnight hunt to quell the munchies and getting lost. I can only imagine. But happy 420 to you, to those who celebrate it. I just wanted to give you my thoughts on it. I need to wet the whistle. Sorry. I do these little breaks for when I edit videos later. No, I can easily cut that out. Sorry, podcaster, you got to listen through it. All right. So obviously the big story of the hour, the big story of the day is Derek Chauvin guilty on all 3 counts. So I wrote this before obviously before the verdict, so it's I think it'll still work. So what I want to say is that here we are, is like he's guilty on all charges, and so I just want to say this: justice delayed is not justice denied. We need to practice patience when it comes to these police issues. We have to delay the gratification of justice to allow our legal system to work. Calling for blood based upon one video is mob rule. True democracy is chaos and subject to emotional tantrums, but this is a republic. The media is trying to paint America and Americans as a country rife with racism, and this offends me to no end because it's not true. Yet the media continues to frame the whole issue in a racist way, when justice in this country is based upon facts and evidence. There is due process in this country for a reason. When that 9-minute and 29-second Chauvin video first hit the news cycle, no matter what you felt about it, it was irrelevant to the facts of the case. It was just one fact of the case. One video clip taken out of context without taking into account every single other fact and detail that led up to that moment is no basis for conviction. I, for one, am sick of all these knee-jerk mobs that believe they have the right to supersede our judicial process. And if you don't let the mob have its way, they will riot and burn their own cities until they do get their way. Is this the generation of children that were never spanked? Or is this the generation of children that is too far removed from rubber bullets and water cannons? I'm a hardliner, and I know it. And if I were king of America, I would have the National Guard spraying less than lethal ammo into crowds and arresting everyone with so much as a book of matches. But I am not the king of America. Lucky you. But the state and local and even federal governments in this nation need to come more my way on this issue to solve this problem. If we have to build prisons in the Twin City area to house these criminal rioters, so be it. You can't appease an irrational mob. That's what you got in these liberal cities that are burning. The liberal government and the media have been stoking this fire for a long time, and it's all based upon lies. If you think America is racist, I suggest you visit any other country in the world. Join the Navy if you have to, like I did. You'll realize how racist America isn't until you see how openly and unabashedly racist, and specifically and oddly specifically anti-Semitic, all right, the rest of the world is in comparison. In short, I am sick of these liberal sissies treating these unruly, unintelligent children with kid gloves. A couple of rubber bullets in the gut and they'll go home. A few sprays of a water cannon and perhaps they'll realize they do not call the shots. Law, order, due process in the least racist nation in the world is the best anyone can hope for in this mad world. You ever see a movie called Best Man? There's a scene where this crowd is like, they're singing Kumbaya or something like that because they're happy about this Hamlet armed bank robber just because he spouts Shakespeare during bank robberies. The people love him. And so, like, one of these feds are sitting there, and he goes, is an older fed, and he turns to the younger fed, and he goes, you ever have one of those days where you feel like mowing down a whole crowd? And the young fed looks at him, and he's like, no. And he goes, you're young, give it time. It's a good movie. That's an underrated movie, Best Men. It's a really good movie. Also, I have an idea. Why don't we make an all-black police force? All-black police force. Now, it's only, like, I would suggest only ex-military people allowed. All right, and the sirens. You can change the sirens from that annoying sound we all find so annoying to... I don't know. That would make me happy. I'll be like, yeah, I'm pulling over. Meet this guy. He sounds cool. Anyway, just wanted to rant about it. So, yeah, they found Chauvin guilty. I find that to be surprising, but I guess I should have seen it coming. Oh, well. We'll see what happens in the appeals courts. So, the Orville is pretty awful. Look, I know that there are a lot of people from my generation on down who have a real fond memories of Star Trek The Next Generation. But I didn't like The Next Generation. Oh, the blasphemy, I know. And the Orville is straight up a Star Trek The Next Generation ripoff. And it is just as preachy and boring. However, like The Next Generation, the Orville does brush up against some interesting science fiction concepts, even if they are poorly executed. I don't know what it is with sci-fi writers these days that feel the need they need to try to correct what they perceive as society's ills with their writing. And when it comes to the Orville, the music, the themes, the transitions, damn near everything is ripped off from Star Trek The Next Generation. Where it differs is the humor and the outdated pop culture references. Apparently there is no more additional American culture from now until the time that the Orville takes place. The humor is good. It is what the Star Trek Next Generation lacked. Plus, it's not overly humorous, though it is at times blatantly humorous for humor's sake alone. But generally, I always thought that the people on the Enterprise were way too serious. Humans will always be humans and will want to cut up and make jokes. I don't care how quote-unquote advanced we become. I also don't think that humanity will ever outgrow currency, even in a post-scarcity world. And just like Star Trek The Next Generation, I can't stand the smug concept that capitalism would disappear once 3D printing technology really takes off. Why would anyone work? For reputation, as they say in the show? No one I respect in this world gives a shit what other people think of them. That's a ridiculous concept, and it pisses me off because my self-worth will never be determined upon my reputation, or rather what other people think of me. To hell with that. I really don't care for the gay aliens or any species for that matter who force their children into gender reassignment surgery. And just like Star Trek The Next Generation, they try to take social issues and address them in a sci-fi way, but it's still just preaching. And comparing transsexual surgery to circumcision is absurd. I don't know whoever did that. That one episode just really pissed me off, okay? However, the later episode where the Mocklins cracked me up when they discovered cigarettes and went through the process of addiction and quitting. It was a pretty clever gag. I did enjoy that. Oh, the mustache. Yeah, he did grow a mustache. That was pretty good. But that's another gag, you know. So Sergeant Malarkey is moving up in the world. It turns out that Scott Grimes is actually a quite versatile actor and can sing. Yeah, and I've always been impressed with him in every role I've seen him in. EK's off camera, just nodding in agreement like crazy. Additionally, the Orville, just like the Star Trek Next Generation, looks down on people who have religious faith. Granted, Jean-Luc Picard was far more condescending about it, but Captain Mercer has his moments too. The Krill's rent-a-car religion is just a vehicle to which the quote-unquote enlightened humans of the Union to look down upon. And the idea that more technologically advanced a society becomes, the less it needs religion is insulting and stupid. These idiot liberal writers of this show have all sorts of negative things to say about about religion generally, but won't say boo to Islam specifically. And then you got Isaac, a cold, unfeeling robot man that humans can't seem to stop thinking is a sex toy. It's very original, Orville writers. Also, he thinks that his name comes from Isaac Newton, not Isaac, the son of Abraham. Anyway, the Orville, 5 of 13 stars. derivative, uninspiring, and mildly funny. The dog from Family Guy is always barking orders, and Norm Macdonald is underutilized. All right, I had another thing I wanted to get into, but I just reading over the notes. The thought isn't fully formed. I need to save that for another time. But I watched Rocket Man, the Elton John movie, and I've a lot of strong thoughts on it. I need to organize them first. So let's just go ahead and get into the news worth knowing. The news worth knowing. Close window. All right. Okay. Waters brushes off judge's criticism over confrontational comment, claims he said her words don't matter. Representative Maxine Waters from California appeared to shake off comments by the judge in the Derek Chauvin murder trial, who said her confrontational remarks during a weekend protest in Minnesota. Wait, she's from California. Minnesota. That's a different state. Okay. Yeah. Said her confrontational remarks during a weekend protest in Minnesota could result in the whole trial being overturned. Well, we know that didn't happen. Judge Peter Cahill was asked by Eric Nelson, the defense attorney, to declare a mistrial due to prosecutorial misconduct and Waters' comments at the Brooklyn Center protest on Saturday night. Sorry. She was asked about the Chauvin case and told reporters if the former police officer is not found guilty of murder, we got to stay on the streets. This is a quote. We've got to stay on the streets and we've got to get more active. We've got to get more confrontational. We've got to make sure that they know we mean business. Nelson told the court that there is a high probability that jurors will see Waters' comments. Cahill denied the request. Quote, this is what Cahill said. I'll give you that Congresswoman Waters may have given you something on appeal that may result in this whole trial being overturned. Boom. I think that statement right there, coming from the judge, tells the whole story right there. I'll give you that Congresswoman Waters may have given you something on appeal that may result in this whole thing overturned. So I think that this was going to be guilty all the way, because they were scared of a riot. Justice delayed is not justice denied. And so I may think that this guilty verdict is BS, and I don't think that he should got guilty on all charges. But maybe it's just too hot right now. Maybe he can spend a year in prison and maybe get out of it. Then maybe start a civil suit against the city. You trained me in the way to kill George Floyd. All right? Get some money for your trouble. Who knows how it's going to pay out. But that quote from the judge tells the whole story, if you ask me. Cahill called it disrespectful to the rule of law and to the judicial branch, for elected officials to comment on the outcome of the case. Quote, their failure to do so, I think, is abhorrent. But I don't think it has prejudiced us with additional material that would prejudice this jury. They have been told not to watch the news. I trust they are following those instructions. Most people don't watch the news anyway. I'm sure. What if a judge came to you and said, "Don't watch the news"? I was like, "Yeah, I wasn't going to anyway." I'm trying to binge watch Game of Thrones again. Anyway, Waters was asked about the judge's comment on Monday and said, "The judge says my words don't matter." Her office did not immediately respond to after-hours email from Fox News seeking comment. Well, at least they said it that way. It was late, but they didn't respond. So, Waters has been criticized by Republicans who call her comments reckless. Senator Ted Cruz from Texas took to Twitter on Sunday saying Democrats actively encouraging riots and violence. Cruz tweeted with a link to a story about California Democrats' comments. They want to tear us apart. Fox News' Chad Pergram, reported that some Democrats were not pleased that House Speaker Nancy Pelosi defended Waters, saying she should not apologize. He reported that Democrats could support that one lawmaker termed a reasonable worded censure resolution to rebuke Waters. Have you ever seen Team America World Police? It was like Hans Bricks. What's his name? Excuse me, Blix. Hans Blix shows up to Kim Jong-il and is like, You're gonna make the UN very angry. It's like, oh, and then what are you gonna do? It's like, we're gonna write you a letter telling you how angry we are. Yeah, it's very scary, very scary. And that's what censure is. This is, they're gonna write a letter to Maxine Waters. She needs to be, you know, she needs to be out of office. She's nothing but a, race hustler, race baiter. She's just trying to stir up shit. And it's gonna be. People could have died if this verdict came out any other way. People could have died. Probably infueled. In what she said could have caused deaths. But I believe in the First Amendment. I believe in freedom of speech. You can say anything you want, I suppose. So I mean, what do you say? You can say naughty, naughty from afar. The Congress writes you a letter saying naughty. Anyway, let's go on to this next story. DeSantis signs Florida's anti-riot bill into law. God bless the republic. Governor Ron DeSantis on Monday signed into law Florida's anti-riot bill, which increases penalties for crimes committed during riots, which is aimed at combating public disorder. Quote, if you look at the breadth of this particular piece of legislation, it's the strongest anti-rioting, pro-law enforcement piece of legislation in the country, DeSantis said at a press conference. There's just nothing even close. Florida Senate passed the bill last week, 23-17. It was seen as a response to protests around the country stemming from police brutality against African Americans. The law, which goes into effect immediately, grants civil legal immunity to people who drive through protesters blocking the road, and allows authorities to hold arrested demonstrators from posting bail until after their first court date. The legislation increases the charge for battery on a police officer during a riot and adds language that could force local governments to justify a reduction in law enforcement budgets. The bill allows people to sue local governments over personal property damages if they were determined to have interfered with law enforcement response during civil unrest. It also increases penalties for protesters who block roadways or to face public monuments and creates a new crime, mob intimidation. Okay. I guess I need to see the specifics of that one. Republicans say the bill could protect law enforcement officers and help prevent public disorder following recent unrest in the U.S. Civil rights, social justice groups, and Democrats say it is an unconstitutional attack on free speech that would make it easier for law enforcement to charge those involved in a protest. Okay. Quote, the problem with this bill is that the language is so overbroad and vague that it captures anybody who is peacefully protesting out of protest and turns violent through no fault of their own, said Kara Gross. Gross? Yeah. Gross. If that was my last name, I'd go by Gross. The legislative director at ACLU, Florida, according to the Orlando Sentinel. Those individuals who do not engage in any violent conduct under this bill can be arrested and charged with third-degree felony and face up to 5 years in prison and loss of voting rights. The whole point of this is to instill fear in Floridians. On Monday, DeSantis, a Republican who talked about the trial of former Minneapolis police officer Derek Chauvin, who has pleaded not guilty in charges of second-degree, the governor hinted he could be acquitted according to the paper. Well, we know that's not true. Well, what a difference an hour makes. I don't know what's going to happen, DeSantis said, but I can tell you that this case was bungled by the attorney general there in Minnesota. They didn't handle it properly, and so there may be people who are disappointed. Well, one way or another, people are going to be disappointed, right? Sure. I don't know how much rioting Florida has seen, but you could make the ACLU has a point, I think, in saying that maybe the language is too vague and broad, overbroad, as they say, which I don't think is a word. It's so overbroad and vague. And sure, you can get more specific in any law, if you ask me. But at the same time, if you're seeing like DeSantis doing this, DeSantis has been making a name for him in the Republican Party lately because of the way he's been handling Florida and so forth with COVID and everything. And there's a lot of talk about him running for president and stuff like that, and that may be a possibility. And so you gotta understand, it's like there may be some part of this that is a show at some point. I mean, I'm a Republican. I support this new law. I think it's a good idea. But I will say this, and this is like, you can become more specific in the language of the law. I think you can always fine tune it in many ways. And so it's and some part of it is him grandstanding in the sense is like, look how hard and tough I am being on crime. Won't you want to vote me in next election when I'm the Republican running? You know, it's a sad little game that we play, but it's a game that we do play, you know. Anyway, it's our government. Yay. Anyway, so let's go on to this next story. Black Lives Matter protesters rally for a victim, leave after learning he was white. Black Lives Matter protesters in Minnesota dropped to a knee and set off to a march over a fatal police shooting, only to return when they learned it was a white carjacker who had fired at police, according to reports. Dozens of people protesting outside of Governor Tim Walz's mansion in St. Paul on Sunday were filmed by Fox 9 reporter Mitty Hicks when they knelt for a moment of silence over initial rumors about Sunday's 3 p.m. fatal shooting. Protesters kneel after hearing there was an officer-involved shooting in Burnsville moments ago, Hicks tweeted of the wild, caught-on-camera armed carjacking in the suburbs. The information has not been confirmed, but this group says they are heading there. Hicks said, the man who was killed is believed to be a white man in his 20s who had stolen a car from a woman at gunpoint, then repeatedly shot at cops as they chased him, Burnsville police said. Traffic camera footage shared by KARE 11 showed that the suspect was leaping out of a standstill moving car and then running into the road and seemingly pointing his gun at an approaching SUV before he was shot by multiple pursuing officers, police said. The BLM marchers, riled by the local police-involved deaths by George Floyd and Dante Wright, soon appeared to get word that the latest shooting was not one fit to protest. The protesters turned back and headed back to Brooklyn Center, the city where Wright died, because they need more information about what happened in Burnsville first. Hicks said in an update about an hour after initial video. Word of the planned protest after the rush to judgment quickly had the protesters ripped online. For an armed carjacker, are you people this stupid? One person replied to Hicks' video, while Amanda Felsky said the group planned to just immediately loot Riot without getting the facts. Brandon Hartman, meanwhile, pointed out the latest suspect had been shooting at police. Are they kneeling for the amazing work these officers did to keep the community safe from a madman with a gun? Different madman. He asked the protest group. The Burnsville carjacker has yet to be identified. No police officers were injured, and there are no reports of any suspects' victims being wounded either. Excuse me. Quote, all Burnsville police officers wear body cameras, and camera data will be handled by the Minnesota Bureau of Criminal Apprehension, who will lead the investigation, the force said. So here's what's funny. They hear about a shooting. They immediately assume it's a black person. Or they hedge their bets. So should we start moving that way now if it's a black guy? What are the odds it's a black guy? So let me ask you, who's the real racist? You hear of somebody getting shot, first thing in your mind is like, maybe it's a black guy. Let's go there. They find out it's white and it's like, oops, our bad. Where are the real racists? You tell me. There's a bunch of people not waiting for justice to work itself out. Evidence needs to be collected. All right? Backgrounds need to be looked into. Questions need to be asked. Let the justice work. Give it time. You can't just go run into a scene every time somebody gets shot, no matter what their skin color is. Run into a scene and say, somebody do something right now. Let justice work. If you ever God forbid, get caught in some situation where you're arrested, you're going to want the justice system to work too. Anyway. All right, I got three more stories here. And I like to be on happier notes, and these are kind of happier stories, or sillier stories, if you will. All right, drug runner's cat caught trying to sneak narcotics into a Panama prison. Geez, Fox News. Here's the first sentence, the lead sentence. It was far from the perfect crime. Try again. Boy, those editors, they don't really look at these articles, do they? Because, I mean, I don't know. It's like when I worked at like a literary mag, when I worked at, the school paper, the editor would say, that's dumb. Don't do perfect crime. That's dumb. Anyway, a drug runner's fluffy white cat was caught trying to smuggle narcotics into a prison in Panama, authorities said. Some get loose? All right. There goes some of me again. All right. The feline felon was carrying the contraband in a pouch tied around his neck when it was stopped outside the Nueva Esperanza prison in the province of Colón on Friday, AFP reported. The animal had cloth tied around its neck that contained wrapped packages of white powder, leaves, and vegetable matter, said Andre Gutierrez, head of the Panama penitentiary system. Vegetable matter. That's cocaine and marijuana. Yeah, substances were likely cocaine and marijuana, according to another official. Local prosecutors said they opened an investigation into the use of animals for sneaking illegal substances into Nueva Esperanza facility, which houses more than 1,700 prisoners. Meanwhile, the criminal cat in question will be taken to a pet adoption center, prosecutors said. It's not the first time critters have been used as drug runners by prisoners in the Central American country, or any country. You know, lots of countries this happens. Authorities have previously intercepted attempts at drug deliveries by homing pigeons and even drones. I mean, a cat smuggling in. When you strap a bunch of cocaine and weed to a cat, don't you think is like, how much money am I willing to lose? I mean, how much do you really trust that cat? I mean, I don't know about you, but I don't think I would trust, a cat with $5. I would give a cat $1. They'd eat it. You'd never see it again. I just don't trust cats. I mean, I like cats. I think it's mostly a static relationship we have with them. But I mean, I don't trust them. Well, certainly you wouldn't trust him with $100 of coke and weed, I'm going to strap it to its neck and hope it doesn't take off with it. You certainly wouldn't trust a human with that. All right, I got 2 more stories that we're going to call a short show. All right, so TSA finds meth hidden inside a breakfast burrito at the Houston airport. Getting a little closer to home. Okay. When it comes, all right, here's the first lead sentence for this article. All right, nothing, everything gets past these editors. That's going to ruin the burrito's flavor. There's a reason why you end up being a journalist and not a comedy writer, okay? Do your job. There's got to be some editor somewhere looking at these articles saying, don't do that dumb joke. Nobody wants to hear your dumb jokes. You're not a comedian. Anyway, when it comes to burritos, there are a lot of things that can go inside of them. Some are full of rice, others have scrambled eggs, others are full of meat. When going to the airport, however, don't fill burritos with illegal drugs. See, anyway, I don't want to editors know anymore, but anyway, the TSA shared images of the illegal burrito on its Twitter page, confirming that meth had been found inside the breakfast burrito at the William B. Hobby Airport in Houston. According to a press release from the TSA that the incident occurred on April 2nd, when a screening agent noticed an unidentifiable lump in the burrito as it was being brought through the security by a traveler. When the item was inspected, the illegal substance inside was discovered. All right, look, when some TSA agent starts putting their fingers inside your burrito, I mean, at some point you got to say, come on, man, my burrito. But I think that was the whole plan, wasn't it? Anyway, the Houston Police Department was called to the scene where they determined that the substance was meth. TSA Federal Security Director at HOU Hector Vela said, I commend the actions of our TSOs and supervisory TSO who noticed something that wasn't quite right and for acting on their instincts. Your attention to detail and follow-up response led to the discovery of crystal meth, a dangerous and illegal substance, said TSA Federal Security Director at HOU Hector Vela. You did that twice, man. The editors let everything through, man. Fox News. Anyway, airport, he goes on to say, airport security checkpoints in Houston and across Texas are seeing significant increases in the number of departing travelers. Despite these increases, TSA continues to focus on its core security missions to keep travelers safe and secure. We sincerely thank all of our Houston airports, local and federal partners who work tirelessly every day to interdict dangerous contraband from entering or leaving our community. Said, we want to keep our contraband here. Said Houston Airport Chief of Operations Steve Hennigan. In this case, TSA officers' training awareness and heroic actions, we believe, save precious lives. Well, haven't you ever seen a suspicious lump inside a burrito? There's always lumps inside of a burrito, right? I guess it depends on how much meth. It doesn't say like the amount of meth they found, but I guess it had to have been a lot to create a significant bulge in your burrito. Still, I don't know how far into digging into the burrito would they go before you're just like, well, if I'm going to jail, I'm going to want to finish the burrito. Look, there's meth in there. Just don't get your fingers out of my damn burrito. I want to eat that right now. At what point do you say it's like, well, that's a burrito lost? Anyway, I've got one more story to do, and then we'll call it a day. North Carolina man chucks a bobcat after attacks his wife in a driveway. Surveillance video shows. And I don't know about you, but I watch this like 3 times. But I don't know. It's like I said, I don't trust cats. And for some reason, some dude throwing a cat is hilarious to me. And so go look for this video if you like. But a protective husband in North Carolina leapt into action to save his wife from a rabid bobcat in a wild viral video. Wild bobcat, viral, rabies, virus. Oh, clever. In home security footage that hit Twitter on Thursday, the day that began like any other. Who writes like that? That's awful. Anyway, Happy Wade offered a chipper good morning to a jogger passing by his Burgaw home in the Creekside community, put a travel mug on the hood of his white SUV, and told himself that he needed to wash his car, WECT reports. This is awful, awful journalism. Moving to place a tray of brownies in the back seat, his wife, Christy, made her way across the passenger side when a wild animal released a screech. Oh my God, Happy, Christy screamed, as a small bobcat lunged and pounced at her back on the driveway. Rushing to her side, the man grabbed the bobcat with his bare hands and screamed, "Oh my God, it's a bobcat! Oh my God!" The jogger ran back to see what was happening, and the heroic Happy hurled the bobcat across the lawn. Get out, get out, get out, he screamed and drew his handgun from his pocket, and the wild cat dashed beneath his car. Christy, watch out. I'll shoot the fuck, he yelled. Get out, watch out, it's a bobcat. The must-see moment has been viewed over 12 million times online since it hit Twitter on Thursday, and commenters were shocked by the sight. Quote, my guy just won every argument with his wife for the rest of their marriage. One user teased. No, that's not true. That's not true. Remember that time I pulled that bobcat off you? You take the trash out. WECT reports that Happy ultimately shot the bobcat during the early morning of April 9th, realizing it had to be sick. I'm not happy that this happened. We don't take any pleasure that I shot a cat. I knew when I realized it was a bobcat, having been born and raised in North Carolina and hunting all my life, that's just not normal. Quote, in my head, I knew it had already attacked 2 people. If it attacked somebody else and I didn't do something morally, it would have bothered me for a long time, he added. It was hurting my wife and I didn't want it to. Law enforcement soon arrived at the Wade home and officers killed the cat. Its body was sent to the state lab in Raleigh where testing revealed it was positive for rabies. The bobcat bit Happy and Christy several times, and the Pender County couple has received treatment for rabies, including 30 shots each to fight the virus. Yeah, I forgot about that. That rabies treatment is just awful. Just awful. I think it's like over a month. Yeah, it's like over a month. You get like a shot every day or something like that for a month. Awful. He saved my life, Christy said of her spouse. I don't know where I'd be or what sort of shape I'd be in if he had not been there. It could have been so much worse, and it could have been one of those little girls' lives that's just a few houses down. Though the cat attack certainly shook them up, the Wades say they're animal lovers and they're proud pet parents of 1 rescue dog and 2 rescue cats. That fateful morning, they were on their way to take their senior feline, Caroline Faith, to the vet. You named your cat Caroline Faith? That's awful. Well, they may not be good at naming their pets, but hey, guy saved his wife from a bobcat attack. That's scary. I mean, the thing wasn't super big. I mean, it was pretty, but scary enough. You know how cats can be. They can be vicious. Anyway, so we're coming to a close of the show. This cough drop's almost gone, and I'm going to start coughing again like crazy. So I want to remind you to find my channel on YouTube. Search for Shock Monkey Radio on YouTube. like, share, and subscribe. I would appreciate it. Tell your friends about this podcast. I would appreciate that as well. I also have books available on Amazon.com. Search for the author Scott L. Robbins with 2 T's and 2 B's. I got the Exit 13 books. I got The Ravings of a Madman and The Bunny Years, a memoir, all up there for digital download. Help me out. Also, I have Cash App. You can use the cash tag ShockMonkeyRadio. You can send me cash through that, or you can go over to Patreon, patreon.com/ShockMonkeyRadio. Become a patron. I would appreciate it. And so EK isn't here, so I'm probably going to have to shut off the show myself. So, this has been Shock Monkey Radio. I'm the Madman, and I love you.